Nicotine and vaping. Nicotine addiction often starts as a small ritual: a cigarette during stress, a vape between tasks, a quick hit to feel calmer or more focused. What makes it powerful is speed. Nicotine reaches the brain fast and creates a brief sense of relief, alertness, or control. The feeling fades quickly, but the brain remembers it and begins asking for it again. Soon, the habit attaches itself to daily moments like coffee, driving, breaks, or late nights. Vaping made this loop even easier to repeat because it feels cleaner, smoother, and more convenient than smoking. That can make people underestimate how often they use it. Over time, the person is no longer reaching for nicotine to feel better. They are reaching for it to stop feeling worse. Irritability, restlessness, and brain fog begin to appear without it. In the end, nicotine controls you by turning brief relief into constant dependence and automatic behavior. Alcohol. Alcohol addiction usually grows quietly because drinking is tied to normal life. It appears at parties, dinners, weekends, and stressful evenings, so the habit can blend in for a long time. At first, alcohol seems useful. It lowers tension, softens anxiety, and makes difficult feelings feel farther away. That is where the trap begins. The brain learns that a drink can quickly change mood, so alcohol becomes more than a social choice. It becomes a coping tool. Over time, tolerance builds, which means the same amount does less, and more is needed to reach the same effect. Then the pattern starts shaping everyday life. A person may plan rest around drinking, excuse it after hard days, or keep promising to cut back without doing it. Alcohol controls you by offering escape while slowly weakening judgment, sleep, stability, and self-control. What first felt like relief can slowly become the thing that decides how you feel. Gambling and betting. Gambling addiction is built on uncertainty. That is what makes it so powerful. Unlike ordinary rewards, gambling does not pay off every time, and that unpredictability keeps the brain locked in. A win feels exciting, but even a loss can push the person to keep going because the next round still feels possible. That is why betting can become less about money and more about chasing the feeling that control is just one step away. Sports betting, casinos, cards, and online apps all use the same psychological loop. Risk creates tension, and the chance of reward creates hope. Over time, the person stops playing for fun and starts playing to recover losses, fix stress, or escape emptiness. The danger is that gambling can look harmless for a long time because nothing enters the body, but it still reshapes behavior, attention, and emotion. It controls you by making chance feel like strategy and by keeping your mind trapped in what might happen next. Gaming. Gaming addiction usually begins with immersion. Games offer clear goals, steady progress, instant feedback, and a world where effort often leads to visible results. That can feel deeply satisfying, especially when real life feels slow, messy, or exhausting. What makes gaming different from many other addictions is that it does not only provide pleasure, it can also provide identity, achievement, competition, and social connection. A player may feel respected in the game in ways they do not feel outside it. That is where the attachment can grow stronger. Sessions become longer, breaks feel irritating, and ordinary tasks start to feel dull compared to the speed and reward of the game world. Over time, sleep, school, work, and relationships can begin to bend around play. The person may keep saying they can stop anytime, yet still return for one more match, one more mission, one more level. Gaming controls you by replacing balance with compulsion and by making virtual progress feel more urgent than real life. Food and sugar. Food addiction, especially around sugar and highly processed foods, often hides inside normal eating. Everyone needs food, which makes this kind of addiction harder to spot and harder to control. The problem is not hunger alone. It is the way certain foods are designed to be intensely rewarding. Sugar, fat, and salt can hit the brain quickly and create comfort, pleasure, and relief, especially during stress, boredom, loneliness, or sadness. That is why cravings often have little to do with the body truly needing energy. The person is not only eating to fuel themselves, they are eating to change how they feel. Over time, the cycle becomes familiar. A craving rises. The food brings temporary relief, and guilt or discomfort follows, which can trigger the next urge later. Unlike other addictions, food cannot be removed from life, so the struggle keeps returning every day. It controls you by turning emotional discomfort into appetite and by making short comfort stronger than long-term balance. Phone and social media. Phone and social media addiction often feels normal because it hides inside everyday life. The device is always near, always charged, always ready to fill a quiet moment. What makes it addictive is not just communication, but constant stimulation. Every scroll offers something new. A message, a post, a notification, a video, a small reward that arrives before boredom can settle in. The brain begins to expect that steady stream of novelty, and silence starts to feel uncomfortable. Over time, checking becomes automatic. A person reaches for the phone without thinking. During work, meals, conversations, even seconds after putting it down. Social media adds another layer by tying attention to approval, comparison, and fear of missing out. The person is no longer only consuming content. They are also measuring themselves against other people. That is where control begins. It pulls attention away from the present, weakens focus, and trains the mind to crave interruption. What feels like connection can slowly become dependence. Shopping and spending. Shopping addiction usually begins with emotion, not need. Buying something new can create a brief rush of pleasure, relief, or control, especially during stress, sadness, boredom, or insecurity. For a moment, the purchase seems to solve something. It changes the mood, creates anticipation, and gives the person the feeling that life has improved. But that feeling fades quickly, which is why the urge often returns. What makes this addiction different is that it can hide behind ordinary behavior. Shopping is part of normal life, and spending is easy to justify. A person can call it self-care, reward, preparation, or convenience. Meanwhile, the real pattern keeps growing underneath. Browsing turns into craving, saving items turns into buying them, and regret appears soon after. Then guilt, financial pressure, or disappointment can trigger the next urge to spend again. Shopping controls you by making desire feel urgent and by turning emotional discomfort into a transaction. The object matters less and less. The temporary feeling becomes the real target. Work and productivity. Work and productivity addiction often looks admirable from the outside. It can appear disciplined, ambitious, and responsible, which is why it is rarely questioned at first. But the addiction is not really about loving work. It is often about needing constant output in order to feel valuable, safe, or in control. Rest begins to feel uncomfortable, even guilty. A quiet evening can seem wasted, and slowing down can create anxiety instead of relief. That is when productivity stops being a tool and becomes a measure of self-worth. What makes this addiction especially hard to spot is that society often rewards it. The person may receive praise while becoming more exhausted, less present, and emotionally disconnected. They keep chasing the next task, the next goal, the next proof that they are doing enough. Over time, relationships, health, and peace of mind start losing ground to performance. Work controls you when being busy no longer supports your life, but starts replacing it. Achievement remains, but the person inside it grows thinner. Porn and compulsive sexual behavior. Porn and compulsive sexual behavior addiction is often driven by secrecy, repetition, and emotional escape. It is not only about desire. For many people, it becomes a fast way to change mood, reduce stress, numb loneliness, or avoid difficult feelings. That is part of what makes it so controlling. The behavior offers immediate intensity without requiring vulnerability, patience, or real connection. Over time, the brain can start linking arousal not just to sexuality, but to coping itself. Then the urge appears in moments of boredom, shame, anxiety, or emptiness. Porn is especially powerful because it offers endless novelty, and novelty keeps attention locked in. What once felt stimulating can begin to feel routine, which pushes the person to seek more time, more frequency, or stronger material. Meanwhile, real intimacy may start to feel less engaging, more demanding, or emotionally distant. This addiction controls you by turning private relief into a repeated loop. The person may feel in charge in the moment, while slowly losing control of when and why they return.